All right. You know the title. The title, I don't really have to explain it all too further, right? The goofiest shit people do. I'm going to be giving you my observations. These are going to be some of the things that I don't do, some of these things I do do. But at the end of the day, whether you get offended or not to some of these things that I'm going to be mentioning today, at the very least, all I would like to do is bring awareness to how goofy some of the things in which each of us and all of us really do. And what I will say is this should be a very very lighthearted, fun, funny podcast, but at the very least don't take it light, right? Lighthearted, but don't take it light with some of these things for sure. So to get it started, right, there's going to be plenty of goofy things that we all do. And some of these things don't even get questioned. These are things that I've questioned myself. I don't. I think a lot of these things really get overlooked of how goofy or how random or how odd they are. So um, I definitely want to, like I said, just bring attention to that for sure. So the first one of the day, I don't understand people when they start eating for convenience over health, right? If you're a person that is trying to be somewhat healthy, somewhat health conscious in this life, yet you're still finding yourself eating a lot more for convenience rather than overall health, I think that is a goofy thing that people do. And the reason why I think it's goofy is like you ever see a person who's just eating like noodles or they're just eating pasta or they're just eating something that's like rice or something like that, right? And that's literally all they're eating. They're eating a proteinless meal. And like I said, maybe sometimes it's out of convenience, sometimes it's out of just to eat something. But in my personal opinion, the reason I think it's goofy is because well, first you're not even getting, you're just kind of like filling your stomach you're just trying to be feel full as opposed to actually feel like um you ate something of substance that was actually fruitful. So that's the first thing I want to start with, and obviously that's something that's a lot light, and I'll definitely get a lot more goofy here in a minute. But yes, that's gonna be the first one right there. If you're gonna eat, make sure you're eating to actually make sure you're actually eating to get filled with something that is actually of nutrients and of substance for sure. So getting into the next one, obviously, like I said, this is just gonna be random as shit, right? And if you have your own personal opinion on some of these things that you believe are goofy things in which people do, right? Just dumb shit, right? Make sure to go and leave in the comments for sure. The next one, this is going to be one I seen a lot of these things in my day to day life, but I do got to mention something about it. The next one is going to be sagging your pants. That is some of the goofiest shit that I see anybody do, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen people walking through the mall just damn near their pants all the way down, right? So I don't understand that shit, right? For me, as a man, you would think protecting your own ass should be something that should be on high alert, right? But if you're some of these people who are sagging their pants, man, they just your underwear showing. We all can see it, man. Yeah, you keep doing it. I don't understand people. I don't understand why it's ever cool to be showing your ass damn near. That's not cool to me personally. So that's gonna be another one of those things. That I see. And I'm like, that's just a goofy motherfucker just for that. So yeah, that is for sure another one, right? And like I said, if you guys have any other things that you find are really really goofy that people do, feel free to go ahead and mention these things. And like I said, I'm here to bring awareness. So if some of these things I'm trying to make you a little bit more aware, some of these things maybe hopefully you start to think about them a little bit more than you typically would. Right, getting into the next one. The next one is going to be one that I see all too often. I feel like people don't really, they're really not too serious with this, and it's something that I believe a lot more people should be serious with. Right, the next one, the next goofiest thing that I've ever seen anybody do is going to be going ahead and drinking from a water fountain. Right, if you're a person who's decently health conscious, you understand that the water that is let's just say tap water. And here's the thing, it's sometimes it's avoidable, sometimes it's not, right? um but if you're a person, you're just in need of water and you didn't bring water, which you already failed to plan, right? I live in one of the hottest states in the United States, so water is definitely a necessity. I'm definitely going to bring it everywhere. But if you're on the verge of damn near about to die and you're drinking out of a water fountain, that's a fucking tough ass look. And the reason I'm going to say that, and like I said, I'm here to bring awareness, right? is because, well, first of all, there's fluoride in the water, right? There's probably heavy metals and fluoride in the water, right, which aren't very very good for your health or your brain or any of that. But yet you're still going ahead and drinking out of a water fountain. And I understand it's, you're just trying to, satiate your thirst, but at the same time, you got to think about your health, right? That's something I see. I'm like, man, it's 2025. You still are drinking out of a water fountain, man. You just didn't plan good enough. So if I ever catch you drinking out of a water fountain, I'm just gonna be like this. Come on, man. You should have planned better for this. But getting into the next one, this is one that's gonna kind of go without saying, but I feel like I still need to mention it, right? I think one of the goofiest things that I see people do all too often is put too much value and too much stake into what others think about them, right? This is gonna be one that is an interesting one, right? I feel like you know yourself better than anyone, right? And if you get offended by what somebody says, that means you feel somewhat of a connection towards that, right? So if you're a person, let's just say you don't cheat, and I call you a cheater, right? That allegation is not going to mean anything to you, right? Because quite frankly, it's not true, right? If you know yourself, you know what you do, and you know what you don't do, right? There shouldn't be anything anybody can tell you that isn't true about yourself, and it shouldn't get you emotionally charged just because they called you that specific thing, right? To an extent, obviously, if it's reputation destroying, that's an entirely different thing. But at the end of the day, I feel like most of what people say about you, right, good or bad, shouldn't be that valued by you, right? Of course, you should strive to be a good person, but you shouldn't strive for compliments for being a good person, if that makes any sense, right? But at the end of the day, putting too much stake, putting too much value in what other people have to say about you, when in reality, like I had mentioned, you should know yourself better than anyone. So if you're finding people affecting you with the things in which they say when it comes to when they talk about you, then I think that's something that you must really reflect and try to understand. Is there something deeper there that maybe this person is hinting at, right? So that's what I will say. Usually, if somebody says something about me and I know it's not true, or I know it's not the character that I am, it's gonna be, it's of course it's gonna be not impossible to take offense from this. Of course, you're gonna take offense from it a little bit because, like I said, it's saying something about your reputation. But if it's not true, then at the end of the day, it's not true, right? So, like I said, that one I feel like goes without saying. But yeah, you see all too many people really giving a shit too much about things that don't really apply to them, right? I'm not responsible sometimes. For the most part, I'm not responsible for your perception of me, right? And I'm just going to conduct my life the way in which I need to conduct my life and the way I feel fit. And yeah, like I said, just valuing too much, putting too much value in what other people have to say about you is an interesting life decision. So if you're doing that, and like I said, you're just getting too emotionally charged, evaluate your life. That's some goofy shit for sure. So getting into the next one, another thing that I see that is all too damn goofy. But yeah, I see it all the time, especially within competition. I'm gonna say crashing out over small shit, right? This is one I'm sure people can see how goofy this shit is, right? You see, the way that I see this play out a lot more often is within competition, right? So I see a lot of people, we're playing a basketball game, and all of a sudden somebody wants to fight, or all of a sudden talking about shooting something, right? Like, what are we doing right now, right? They're trying to crash out over something that's super super small, that doesn't really matter, that isn't really worried about the grand scheme of life in general, or where you're going to be in the next 24 hours, or what could happen in the next 24 hours. So yes, I feel like people crashing out over small shit that they can control, shit that they put themselves into, right? I feel like those are all things that are very very goofy. See all too often where yeah, people just crashing out, man. They just be chimping out over nothing, man. I can't even believe it sometimes. Let me read some of these comments real quick. Anthony said, if you're still sagging your pants in 2025, you need to take a serious look at your life. I agree, Anthony. I agree. But hey, man, it's not for me. I'll tell you that. It's not for me. I ain't going to say it. Yeah, okay. But yeah. Yeah, crashing out over small shit, that's something that's not cool. It makes people feel very, very uncomfortable. That's going to be another one of those things that you need to really evaluate within your own personal life, right? You shouldn't be that on edge, right? There shouldn't be things that, especially small things, that really get you. And I keep using it. emotionally charged, right? You shouldn't have a lot of shit phase you in this life, right? Crashing out over small shit is letting little shit really phase you, and that should never happen. Getting into the next one. This is one that I believe, and this is something that I have kind of. It's been a model. It's been a large model of how I live my life and how I choose my decisions. And I think more and more it's going to get even more important, right? The next goofiest thing that I see people all too often do is choosing a career path that they could have chose 15 to 30 years ago when everything is completely different. I've mentioned this on some of the last few podcasts, but I do think it's interesting how people still make career decisions and they don't necessarily plan according to the current state of reality that does exist today, right? I feel like a lot of people for the best or for the worst, they really believe all of what their parents have to say about their career choices and the opportunities that do exist. And if you understand that your parents are going to be older than you and are coming from a paradigm that isn't a modern paradigm, and society is moving so fast, AI is moving so fast, all these things are moving so fast. There's the most amount of opportunities that have ever existed in history, and yet you're choosing a career path, a life path, a lifestyle choice to go ahead and choose something that you could have chose 15 to 30 years ago. That doesn't seem that wise when there's literally opportunities that didn't exist 30 years ago that are within your reach, but yet you're still reaching back for something that is just something that you could have done no matter I'm not going to say no matter what time, but damn near any other time, right? Any other time in history, you could have damn near did that job, but all of a sudden you're starting to do it in today's culture, right? There's that for me. You must understand what lifestyle you want to live. You must understand what work and how you want to spend 1/3 of your life at least. So, right, if you're gonna choose it, if you're gonna choose a decision that's more conventional, then you must be satisfied and content with living a conventional life. But in this life, there's too many people making a lot of money doing unconventional things. Like I said, the most opportunity that does exist. So it'd be, in my opinion, very, very unwise and very, very goofy for you to be choosing a career path that you could have chose damn near 30 years ago. Makes no sense to me personally. And yes, I think your frame should begin to question a lot of the things and a lot of the decisions that you do make, right? So if you're a person that is hearing advice to go ahead and do this one thing, evaluate how if there's anything else of use and of more relevance in today's culture, or is that something that you believe either is timeless or something that you believe that just is the right decision, right? I feel like you need to evaluate, you need to question. I feel like there's a lot of people who are still making decisions that they just could have made, and that can go outside of um, the career path that you want to choose. But yes, I do believe that your framing for the way in which you frame and question the things in which you do within your life should be one that involves understanding that there's going to be opportunity that was unprecedented a couple years ago, that is going to be provided to you, and obviously you can and you should do something about that. If you don't, you might miss out. You don't take the risk, you lose the chance. It's as simple as that. So the next one, and another one that is very, very interesting for sure. Another thing that I see that happens all too often, that is some of the goofiest shit that I've ever seen, is you have people that kind of understand the system, right? And when I say the system, I'm going to say the way in which society is ran. That is going to be um, my broad explanation for understanding the system, right? Right. So that some people understand the system. They understand how corrupt it is. They understand the good and the bad and the ugly of society, of the way everything is ran, right? And yet you still see people that are going to go ahead and defend a system that isn't really serving them, right? There's going to be certain things in this life that, like I said, you must understand your framing, right? You must understand there's a lot of things that exist within this world that are faulty, that are untrue, right? And with that being said, yes, it is indeed the foundation that is what I believe to be questionable. But at the end of the day, if you're not questioning what should be and what is obviously a questionable foundation of society, then I don't know what you're doing, right? You understand the system doesn't serve you, but you still defend it. That doesn't make any sense to me, right? And let me see if I can give you one of these examples. It's like this, right? Let's just say in 2020, there was this thing that had happened once upon a time, right? And they were all urging all of us to go ahead and get this thing that we maybe some of us felt like we needed, some of us felt like it was a complete waste of time, waste of a decision, but they were all trying to force us into this one specific thing, right? Force this decision upon our lives, right, and our health. And obviously, we understand this perspective. Well, at least, hopefully, you watching this understand this perspective that a lot of that stuff that was given to all of us, the people that chose to go ahead and take it. Let's just say it wasn't really that good for us, right? And now we come out with all the information that says, you know what, it really wasn't good for us. But yet you still see people believing the system, right? They understand the system failed. They understand the system lied, but they're still defending it and still trusting, putting their trust into something that has lied to you before, right? And I guess in my opinion that is a form of defense. You're still going to try to listen and still going to rely on something that has truly lied to you and truly led you astray. I think that's an interesting decision, right? And obviously, this can even extend beyond what I'm mentioning, but just understanding that there is going to be systems in place, whether it's the system of how society is ran or other broader systems, right? You must understand that there's going to be certain systems that don't really serve you in the grand scheme of life, right? The life that you want to live. And yet, if you still defend them, it's going to be an interesting decision. So, for example, right? So let's just say, for example, let's just say, your job doesn't pay you enough money, right? That is a system, right? The job being, or the career being the system, right? It doesn't truly serve you all the way that it possibly can, for obvious reasons, because it's not meant to serve you. It's meant to serve the person that is at the top of it, of course, right? But yet, if you're going to still defend the system that doesn't give a shit about you, that's an interesting decision, right? So little things like that I just view are goofy, right? Some of these things are gonna be a lot more complex. Some of these things are gonna be a lot more basic, right? I'm getting everywhere, but getting into the next one, and I do have a few. I do have quite a few, but if you do want to add and you do have more to say in the comments, feel free to leave it in the comments for sure. Let me go ahead and check the chat real quick. But yeah, so there's gonna be plenty of things that I believe are goofy, right? Some of these things I do, some of these things you do, some of these things hopefully both of us don't do. But quite frankly, at the end of the day, if we're being honest, one of us probably does it. It's probably not me. So there's that. All right, getting into the next one. There's one I'm saving. I don't know how long I'm gonna save it for. There's one I'm definitely saving for sure though. All right, getting into the next one. All right. This concept of overvalidation and simping for women is one of the goofiest things I've ever seen any man do in my entire life, right? They're willing to spend their money on women that don't really care for them. They're willing to do anything and drop everything for women that don't care about them. That doesn't make any damn sense to me, right? And they're all doing it in hopes for the absolute slimmest chance that a woman might fuck them out of pity, right? They don't really understand how women work. They try to be exactly what women say that they want. And then the woman doesn't respond accordingly, and then they wonder why the women don't like them, right? Simping is one of the goofiest things I've ever seen any man do. And if you're a person that is overvalidating women, giving them too much when they aren't giving you enough in return, or maybe what you want in return, I think it's very, very questionable. I think it's very, very goofy for damn sure, right? And another thing is this, right? Right. I seen this the other day. Just women with cash apps, all this, and they're getting the attention, they're getting the money from just random guys, right? And most likely she's a random woman you'll never meet, right? So you're blinded by your own eyes somehow, some way, thinking that the interaction will work in your favor when in reality it doesn't, right? You're giving her things that she doesn't deserve, and you're expecting her to, treat you like an equal. That doesn't make any sense to me, for sure. So, me personally, with any interaction I ever have with the woman, I believe in equal value exchange, right? I believe I give to the interaction and hopefully she gives to the interaction. And in order for me to give more to the interaction, she's going to be also needing to give more. Not first necessarily, but, reciprocating energy, right? Yeah, you see it all too often that with men that simp, with men that don't, they give out too much to women, they miss the mark. They don't believe in equal value exchanges. They believe in a hopeful act of trying to gain brownie points to hopefully get in favor of this woman, and it obviously doesn't happen for the most part. So I think that shit's goofy, right? Any man that you see yourself, any man that you catch in general in this life, in their simping, you need to say something about it. No woman wants that. They would like to use that. They don't want that, right? But at the end of the day, it's something you must evaluate. If you're doing this or you're thinking about doing it, question your whole life. Because quite frankly, there's something that is clearly wrong, right? I never understood the concept of giving somebody something that they don't deserve. No matter how good they look, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What do they bring to the table outside of their looks? And hopefully they do. But quite frankly, my opinion, most women don't deserve shit. In a relationship, romantic sense, I'm gonna say that most women don't deserve shit, right? Most women don't give to the interaction enough. And right, of course, there's probably going to be plenty of men that don't give enough to the interaction as well, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like women obviously get more in return anyways with men. So that's a whole other thing. But yes, getting into the next one. Another one of the goofiest things that I see all too often is going to be smoking nicotine. And specifically smoking nicotine. This is one of the goofiest things that I've ever seen in my entire life. People are getting addicted. They will literally throw everything in the room out of the way to try to look for this small little cancer stick, right? One of the goofiest things I've ever seen. You would think that they lost their phone. They just lost this little device and they're flipping their shit. Or they go a day without it and they're damn near itching themselves because they're addicted, right? This is one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. By far. I don't understand it, right? If you're gonna smoke something, if you smoke weed and you actually, you can actually get something out of it, right? That it lasts longer than like 20 seconds, then maybe that's worth it. But if you're gonna be smoking nicotine, getting a little buzz, and then now you're addicted, and now you literally can't go without it, actually can't go without it, or you'll literally start to tweak out. That seems pretty damn goofy to me. Even if you do this, you gotta admit it's still a goofy thing to do in the grand scheme of everything, right? There's plenty of things that you could be doing with your time, with your energy, with your health that are probably going to be a better decision. But if we're being honest, it's for the most part probably one of the goofiest things people do. That is like super popularized, that people don't question enough nor criticize enough, in my opinion. So there's that. Getting into the next one, let me make sure I'm on task right now. All right. Yeah, getting into the next one. Some of the goofiest things that I see people do is to not live a healthy lifestyle, right? This is going to be an obvious one, right? You don't take care of your health, there's going to be plenty of repercussions for damn sure, right? And I see a lot of people, the goofiest people that I see are people that are trying to take care of their health too late. They wait until it's too late. Then they want to start being a little bit more health conscious. When in reality, if you were health conscious the entire time, then you don't got to spaz out about all the health things, right? It'll be something that is just gradually developed. You'll learn a lot and you'll do a lot when it comes to your health. But if you don't take the time and you don't view it as one of the fundamentals of necessity in this life, and you want to kind of put it off on the back burner as something that is maybe not a priority, especially if you're young, right? This is a mistake that all young people do, or not all. Most young people do, is they feel invincible, right? And of course, I could say I feel invincible, right? I'm young. I'm a young guy, but I also do know that I need to be taking care of my health because I'm playing the long game, just like I am with everything, right? I'm playing the long game of understanding that I want to be able to play basketball with my grandchildren, right? And if something is in the way of that, then it must be removed, obviously, right? And yeah, I don't want to wait until it's too late to be trying to make the right decisions. I'd rather be making the right decisions along the way and then reaping the benefits of making those right decisions, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how hard these things are, it is the right thing to go ahead and do, right? It's the right thing to understand that health is going to be something that you must work on, right? Health is wealth. Yet you see, people being twice as broke, right? They ain't got money, they ain't got their health in check, and what are you doing with your life? At the very least, you should have at least one of those in check. If you have at least one of those in check, at least you're rich in some type of capacity. But if you're broke in both, man, you're just down bad, right? You don't got any money. Okay, that's fine. At least maybe you're in good health. You're not in good health. Well, hopefully you have money. If you don't got either, that's fucking tough. That's tough, right? But yes, another one of these things. Hold up, let me read some of these comments. Choosing to inhale poison, knowing that it's poison, makes absolutely no sense to me, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't make sense to anyone. Heard too many people say, "Oh, everything has chemicals and everything kills you," as an excuse. Yeah, like I said, that's not necessarily a justification for your actions, right? I think that's very, very poor, right? For you to justify your actions saying everything's like that, mm, you know, at the end of the day, just because everybody's making a goofy decision doesn't mean that yours is going to be any less goofy. It's all goofy. It's all together. So, um, but yeah, I think there's a lot of things to be said about people's health, right? Obviously, you have the gym for an example, right? The gym is going to be one of those things that is very, very hard, very, very difficult. Yet you still see people who don't go to the gym. What are you doing? You're making one of the dumbest decisions that you will ever make in your entire life, and you're shortening your life. You're shortening your life, and you're destroying the quality of your life in one fellow swoop, right? You're not being health conscious. You're not going to the gym, and you want to live a long and quality life. You literally are a contradiction. It's simple as that. You're a contradiction. So with that being said, be a person who's actually going to try in this most basic fundamental of life. Take care of your health. It's as simple as that, right? If you don't do it, you're goofy as hell, man. You're just goofy. You're just goofy, right? And the thing that I think is probably the most interesting when it comes to this health conversation is there's this illusion that eating healthy is expensive. When in reality, eating healthy and eating like shit, you're pretty much spending the same amount of money nowadays at the end of the day, right? You don't spend any extra amount of money just because you want to eat healthy. Like you're gonna have an amount of money that you spend on food, and it's probably gonna be damn near the same amount of money that you're gonna spend on healthy food. Right? For example, right? You go get a meal at fast food, it's gonna be anywhere from about 12 to 20 bucks. Like, this is what I found. Fast food about 10 to 20 bucks. You're gonna get a meal, right? Or maybe at a restaurant, maybe it's a little bit more than that, right? And if you were to get a steak, get a steak and cook it yourself, you could probably have it for about the same price, about 12 to 15 to 20 bucks. Same thing. But one is a fast food meal and another is a steak that has all the nutrients, that damn near all the nutrients and minerals that you would need in a lot of your foods, of course. So, yes, you pay the same amount of money, but some people pay that same amount of money for poor health, and some people pay that same amount of money for good health. It's your decision, right? One's more convenient, right? This is another one of those things, right? It's one of the things that I mentioned a lot earlier, right? People eating for convenience over for quality of life, over for health, right? Don't eat just to eat. Eat something of quality, right? Simple as that, right? These are all things that are just basic. These are basic things that I just see all too often. I must call them out because this shit's just goofy as fuck. All right. Getting into the next one. Let's get into some of these, man. Let's get into some of these, right? The next one is gonna be a little bit more controversial. Yeah, Jaden makes a good point. Saying healthy food is expensive, but so are medical bills, right? That's for damn sure. And here's the thing, right? We all have problems until our health starts to go, and then we all have just one problem, which is our health. So if you're not conscious of that, if you want to deal with the bullshit that does exist when it comes to health a lot later, you know what? Be my guest. But quite frankly, here I'm trying to avoid as many of the potential health ailments that I could have later on by making the sacrifices and learning the things that are important right now. So, if just be wise with your decision making, and just know that every single decision that you make is going to be um, is going to be is get you're either gonna have fruits. You're gonna have fruits of your labor much later on in this life, right? And if you don't really plant any seeds, then just know nothing's gonna grow. I'll say that. Make small changes in food budget to make a change to healthier eating. Exactly, right? I'm not saying you need to be, the biggest health nut all time and, completely change everything in one day, right? You need to learn all about it this week, and then the next week you need to change. You need to change everything, right? And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to be making the small changes, like my grandma said right there, right? You need to be making the small changes, the gradual steps that are going to eventually lead you to a healthier lifestyle, right? You refusing to take any and making no change at all is a very questionable and goofy decision. I'm going to say that, right? All right, getting into the next one. The next one, in my opinion, right? This is going to be my opinion. I understand this is going to be Champ's coldest take of the day. Or is it a hot take? We'll see. The next one is going to be watching shows and movies, right? That's going to be one of the goofiest things that I see people do all too often. It's so familiarized and so normalized, yet you see people do it all the time. This is something that I mentioned on one of my last live streams that I think is goofy, right? So you're telling me you're invested and you truly care about what's happening in this false reality that doesn't actually exist. That's what you're telling me. You're caught up in a storyline that isn't your own storyline. And you're investing your time, energy, and emotion, and maybe even money just to watch these things. Hey, that's an interesting life right there, right? People pay attention to so much that isn't their life, and then they call it their life. So, like I said, if you're willing to watch shows, movies is one thing, right? And this is something that I mentioned, right? If you're watching movies and you're watching it with someone, that's perfectly justified act because now it's a social event on top of, entertainment. Then that makes it to me at least make a lot more sense for you to make that decision, right? If you're watching a movie by yourself, you are alone. You are alone. I'm going to say that, right? And that's probably the goofiest thing damn near of this entire podcast, right? If you're watching movies by yourself, that's probably got to be the goofiest thing almost. Except one of these things I'm going to mention a little later, right? But yes, movies and shows to me, they don't make any sense, right? And of course, I can add in sports, I can add in all these things as well, right? And that's one that I'd be a victim of, right? Me paying attention to a sports team that has absolutely nothing to do with me, yet I find affinity to. Of course, I think that's goofy as well, right? I must call that out. But at the end of the day, whatever you do and whatever you choose to watch, including this, is a program, right? You must understand that it is indeed a program. Now, is it a worthy program to have? For me, sports is a social thing, right? I can have conversations with a lot of other men about something that is of my interest, which is sports, right? So that's why I think it's a more justified thing. I still think it's goofy. I still think it's goofy at the end of the day, but at least it's more justified, right? But if you're watching shows or movies by yourself or shows at all, I think you're just goofy in general, right? You're not really evaluating all of the potential of what you can do and what you choose to do in this life. I think you're settling for something that is much less than what you are meant for, in my opinion. Pick and choose a movie or program for entertainment occasionally, but don't spend day in and day out of mindless TV. Yes, I agree 100,000%. And yeah, I'd say, like I said, most of it has really nothing to do with your life, right? And a lot of people they want to have opinions on things that don't matter, right? Some of these things, some people might say it's exactly what this podcast is, but at the end of the day, we all have our opinions, right? But yes, there's going to be goofy shit that people do. And like I said, I'm not saying these things that I'm mentioning on today's episode that I'm completely, removed from. But at the end of the day, at the very least, I want you to mention and at least be mindful that if you're doing and choosing to do any of these things, just know that you are one goofy motherfucker for choosing that decision. That's all I'm going to say, man. That's all I'm saying. Where am I at? I only got a few more left, fellas. Like I said, if there's anything that come to your mind that are very, very goofy in your opinion, make sure you go and leave it in the comments for sure. Whether you're rewatching this or watching this live, make sure you go and leave it in the comments for sure. All right. Let me see. Where am I at? All right. The next one, I got my last one. I like my last one. I'm not gonna say it yet, right? The next goofiest thing that I see people do that is obviously goofy, right? And like I said, obviously, there's going to be upside to doing this, right? But there's obviously downside to doing this as well, right? This is riding motorcycles. Obviously, we obviously all know that this is going to be very, very, this can be a costly error. And of course, your argument, the motorcyclist argument would be like, oh, well, if you're getting in a car, you just you can have an accident just like you are in a motorcycle, right? But here's the thing, right? If I get in an accident in a car, I'm probably going to sustain less damage. If you get in an accident on a motorcycle, there's a good chance you're going to sustain a decent amount of damage, right? And if not dead. So we all know this is goofy, right? There's people that still make the decision. If you're going to be riding around a motorcycle, that's cool, man. Just know that's some goofy ass shit. That's all I'm going to say, right? It's very costly error, like I mentioned, right? You have one bad day, and then you had one ending of a life. That's all it is, right? That's all it takes. And obviously, it's something that we all believe is, at least we all should believe. No matter how cool it is, no matter whatever, no matter how much adrenaline it gives you, it's goofy as fuck. Anyways, we all know this shit. But yes, it is. It is by far one of the goofiest things that I've ever seen people do. Right? You're telling me that having this good time on a motorcycle is worth potentially losing your life every time every time you go on that road? That doesn't seem worth it to me, man. All right, getting into the last one. And of course, I saved the best for last. This is going to be an opinion that is going to be a little bit of this is going to be the coldest take of this entire episode. And if you disagree with this, you got problems. You got a lot of problems, and you need help. The last one, and click off. Feel free to click off anytime, right? But I have to mention this. It's the goofiest shit I've ever seen ever, right? I'm gonna start with this. This is going to be a thing that I want to say 95% of people watching this probably do. Okay? And it is one of the goofiest things that I've ever seen anyone do, and I have to emphasize that because it's that great, right? This is going to be masturbation. This has to be the goofiest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life to this day. Do I do it? Absolutely not. I haven't done it for years. So at least I can admit to that, right? Now, most people watching this, you're cooked. You need help. That is the goofiest thing that I've ever seen anyone do, right? If you're a man watching this, and this is an action that you partake in weekly, monthly, even yearly up until this point, right? You are making one of the weirdest decisions in human history. I'm going to tell you that right now. The reason is because of this. You're trying to get your hand pregnant. That's your strategy. That's your survival strategy, trying to get your hand pregnant. Bro, if that's not goofy in itself, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, man. Here's the thing. Your ancestors would be so proud of you if they knew that you were trying to make your hand pregnant. I'm sure of course they would be super super proud of you. So, yes, it is that goofy, right? It is indeed that goofy. That is one of the most monkiest shit I've ever seen anybody do. Or rather, I haven't seen, or I've heard people do. I don't see people do this, right? Thank God. But yes, the people that do this, and like I said, I'm gonna be honest, probably 95% of people watching this, they go ahead and do it, right? Men, women, doesn't matter. I just think it's goofy, right? I think you're prioritizing pleasure over bonding. That doesn't make any sense to me. To have a sexual relationship by yourself, that's weird. That's some weirdo shit to me, right? You could say, oh, and here's the thing: if your argument against what anything I have to say has to do with health, you have no idea what the hell you're talking to. You don't know what you're talking about in general, right? I feel like people they make this argument that oh, it's for health, and it's you gotta do this, and but what are you talking? You're justifying. You're justifying having sex with yourself. Like, are you actually justifying that? Right? Stop doing that goofy ass shit. If you're a man watching this, if you're gonna have sex, have sex. Don't give yourself the illusion that you're having sex. It makes no sense to me, right? If you desire this release, if you desire this use of your energy, go ahead and find a partner to go ahead and do it with. Go ahead and find a woman to at least do it with, at the very least, right? And I don't necessarily recommend sleeping around, but what I will say is it's much more of a it's much more worth your time to be sleeping around with women than it is to be by yourself having a personal relationship, a personal sexual relationship with yourself. That's not a that can't be that good of a decision. That can't be that wise of a decision to make. So yes, I understand that this is going to be one of these things that is socially programmed into us to think that this is okay. And in my opinion, and it has been this way for a long time. I could say probably about 6 years. I've had this idea. I've had this at the very least I have had this seed of idea planted within me, right? That this is just obviously not a good thing that you should be doing. We all know this, right? Obviously, people understand, and a lot of people, they do really truly feel guilty after doing this. It's a guilty pleasure that people feel, and for whatever reason, they feel the need to go ahead and keep doing it, right? Like I said, I'm not gonna say you need to go ahead and sleep around with women, but at the end of the day, having sex with your own hand, trying to make your own hand pregnant, you got to be fucking kidding me, man. You got to be kidding me. You are much more than that, and if you don't believe that, you are destined to fail. You're destined to be goofy. I'll tell you that right now. But yes, that is all I have to say for today's episode. These are the goofiest things that I've seen people do. I will probably have an episode 2 of this, but yes, these are some of the goofiest things that I see people do all too often, right? So make sure you're taking to sum it up, man. Take care of your health. It's an obvious one. Take care of your health. If you're not taking care of your health, you're making a mistake, and you will be paying for that mistake, especially at the end of your life, for damn sure. So take care of your health. Be mindful and conscious of what's programming you, right? But whether that's understanding the system that we all exist within, or understanding the things that are in place to make us learn and think certain things, whether this is TV shows, the news, all of that. Be mindful of all these things, right? And if I had to give you one more, understand the time that we live in right now. Understand that there's plenty of opportunities that do exist for you to be making a decision that's not a wise decision that you could have made, let's just say 15 to 30 years ago. Just know that's not that smart of a decision. And then the final one I'm going to say is don't be a simp. To sum it up, at the end of the day, don't be a person who's giving too much to the interaction and not receiving enough back, right? That's the last position that you want to be in. Obviously, like I mentioned, bunch of goofy motherfuckers keep doing that. Why? Because they think they can get some play, and we all know for damn sure that they can't. They know that they can't, but they're giving themselves some type of hope by thinking if they do this or act a specific way or send this amount of money or gift her this amount of presents that they might get what they want. We all know that's not true at all, man. So this was episode 140 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about the goofiest shit that I've ever seen people do. If you stayed till the end, I appreciate your time and attention. And make sure to go ahead and leave in the comments if you found any of this useful or funny, or if you had your own opinion that you wanted to voice. Leave it in the comments saying, you know what, chap, all what you said was great and all of it's probably true, but this is probably one of the goofiest things that I've seen people do, right? Other than that, tap with the next podcast on Thursday. I'm going to be going live on Monday again. Right? I didn't do it on Thursday this week, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We'll still get it in. But yes, Monday is going to be the live stream. If there's any specific videos or content or a tier list that you want me to go ahead and make or search up, feel free to let me know as well. Like I said, on Thursday, tap in with the next podcast for sure. I'm going to keep doing the polls. So if there's there's a few specific ideas that I'm trying to do a podcast on, I'm going to give you guys the option to go ahead and choose instead of me just picking all of a sudden, right? So I definitely want to hear you guys' contribution. Make sure you go ahead and stay in tune with the polls, whether that's on YouTube, Instagram, or Snapchat. Tapping with that for sure. But other than that, this was episode 140 of the Life of Champ podcast, talking about the goofiest shit people do. Follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify. And other than that, welcome to the winning team. I understand this probably wasn't the most conventional video that I typically would do, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to give you more awareness, more things to be mindful of, or else you're going to be one of the goofiest motherfuckers I've ever seen. So don't be that. Don't do that. Welcome to the winning team. Tap